backlog. If you read my website, you'll see that I certainly want to investigate recycling. The argument against it, of course, is it costs a lot of money, but if the true cost of not recycling is taken into account in terms of environmental damage and the like, then it's a different story. So whether a bit of leadership can come from council in that regard, again, financially dependent, is the question. I'll touch on the multifunction centre too very quickly. My policy is very clear. I would love to see it built. The children at Tully High School need that facility. I have a lot of problems in it being funded as the biggest single expenditure of ratepayers' money in the history of Cardigan Shire. An enormous amount of money, biggest ever in the history of the Shire. They've had bigger projects with someone else's money, like the sewerage. And to have that when there are other alternatives, such as Councillor Fox tells me he reckons we could air condition and wall and ceiling the igloo for $1 million plus or minus, and they could be built next to the, you'll know from the actual centre of Tully, the entrance of the council chambers is to one side. Why is that? Because they're going to build next to it. The foyer's already there for a hall. That's got to be looked at. It certainly isn't a case of sour grapes, no pool, therefore no multifunction. But there is nothing in that whatsoever. They're two completely independent issues. And just to touch very quickly on the cyclone damage to the wharf facilities, half the problem there, a deal of the problem there, is to do with the fact that those buildings, facilities, weren't properly maintained. Hence the insurance company wouldn't want to pay out. Now we've got to go cap in hand to some other cyclone damage facility to get the money. So really it's where I go back to my premise for standing, which is sound financial management, proper planning, proper governance. We certainly don't want to repeat the circus that existed in Johnston, which is absolutely scary. To go very quickly to those 4 questions, what we need to do is to get this strong financial position. Well, I've told you the 6 ways of doing it, and I want to emphasise in those 2 that I said were the key, namely grants and growth. Some about the rest of it, we certainly are very highly taxed in terms of rates. We don't want to go there. And certainly as far as tourism compared to agriculture, bananas is a larger industry, certainly under threat from imports, and that still remains. Sugar is in fact the current prices less than tourism, so very much tourism is going to be the central plank, I suspect, to enable some of this growth to occur. So I'm saying tourism is high on the financial agenda, and should there be a dedicated officer as opposed to the dual role? Well, my view, Chair, is that there are 2 roles there, and it is such an important area, and I would regard the development officer as having a much wider role. There are so many more things that probably not be, this is not the venue to go through those, but I mean, that is my position on that, but it'll be 7 people decide that, not 1. The 5 visitor centres, I think there is an issue, and you people in tourism need to take this on board. You've got the Tropical Coast Tourism group, you've got the Great Greenway group, you've got the Cane Cutters Way, you've got Mission Beach Tourism yourselves, you've got the Reef and Rainforest group, and I think you did have the Csssoary Coast Tourism Development Bureau. I think that's defunct, but is that right? That yes. Was defunct. So you've certainly cut it down from 6 to 5, and I suspect with 5 centres they could have 5 different names, but I don't know. I reckon there'd be a lot of room to rationalise and coordinate and not have these different bodies with different agendas and no doubt a lot of overlapping. So I think there's an issue for tourism people, for you people, to get your heads around those sorts of problems. In fact, why would you have 2 in Innisfail? Well, I would have thought that the logical place to have 1 down the track would be where the city wetlands comes onto the highway, for example, where that link up there of that whole wetland area, which in fact, as I understand it, was the overflow between the north and south, depending on where the main flow was. So those are the sorts of things that ought to be planned for. and I would suggest it be part of the deliberations as a new council. Mission Beach, and also you asked about the funding, security of funding for 3 years. That's the money that's there now is recurrent expenditure. There's no issue, as I understand it, to take that away. So that's recurrent. There should be an expectation that that will remain, and I would like to think enhanced. Again, very definitely no promises, because the financial position is that serious. And the last question is to do with Mission Beach Tourism and the local tourism organisation working closely with the new council. I think you people really, as an industry, have to start to seriously look at this, the different hats you wear, the Tropical Coast, Great Green Way, Cancutter. That you have to solve that problem, or certainly come to the council with some sort of peak body or arrangement that doesn't have you internally or appearing to internally hemorrhage. So that's all pretty important. And with that, I'd like to thank you, and certainly answer some questions if you've got. Population Centre, which is in Innisfail. There is the counter-argument that it should be in Tully because that's a geographic centre. I think local government is there for people, not for trees or square kilometres, and therefore it should be in Innisfail. But it is certainly on my website part of my policy that council will meet in all the main population centres, which are only 3, Cardinal, Tully and Mission Beach, so that it'll be in these local areas and able to be accessed by people. It is more expensive. You've got to have staff moving around to service those council meetings, and no question about that. And I would expect the number of meetings in each of those centres would be approximately in proportion to the populations. So most two meetings up there to one elsewhere, for example.